I'm struck with, this huge, beautiful facility that you made a big investment into right as the pandemic hit. The pandemic is the biggest whammy we've ever seen.
Crazy.
And that happened right as you made one of your probably biggest investments you've ever made as a business.
Yeah.
So I wanna ask you about not framing it as failure personally, but businesses sometimes have to restructure. It can include bankruptcy, and they can emerge from that. Have you explored failure of the business, not failure of you, but failure of the business as a possible strategy? I also want to ask you about what you've done on the other side, which is on the expense side. So can you talk a little bit about what you've put into place to reduce expenses during the last 6 months?
In our business, our major expense is labor. So obviously, immediately after March 12th, when the NBA closed, the NHL closed, all our phone, the only people calling were to cancel events. So it didn't take long for that to turn into people being laid off. So basically within 14 days, we laid off 80-90% of our staff. So that, we did a great job. Anything non-essential was eliminated. We've dialed everything back. Every agreement we could break, renegotiate, get out of, we have. I'm left with a handful of things right now, which we're in the process of clearing up. So wherever we could save money, we've done the best we can. But, obviously in business, there's only so much money you could save in a place like this. So like I said, the focus turned from defense to offense. The key right now is generating revenue. And we need to generate some serious revenue to keep this floating and to keep the people here. Because a lot of the people that are still with me, not only did they take a reduction in salary, but they've been doing that for quite a bit of time. I like to get them back to some good point where they can keep going. Appreciate the loyalty, but everybody has a rope, right? We're all tied into our own expenses. So that's another reason there's so much urgency to get the revenue moving. One is to cover the monthly, but it's the other thing, I like to bring my staff that are here back to a reasonable wage and try to get as many people back as possible.
And one last question before we go into some of the solutions. You talked about, you were unsure about the lender. You mentioned something about the bank. You weren't certain about what they were going to do next?
Yeah, we have a term agreement with the bank that comes with ratios. So ratios were based on revenues and projections. All those revenues are gone. So
what do you think the bank wants to see?
So, we make all our payments. We're in constant communication with the bank. It's all good. But the debt to equity and our debt service ratios, they're off.
Yeah.
So, I can't change that, and they won't change them. They won't remove them. So, the conversation is, the bank hasn't pulled the plug on anyone yet. Okay, that's a nice story, but it's only October.
Yeah.
We're 6 months in. Really, it's going to get interesting the next 6 months. We all know that as business people, right? We can all hold on for 6 months. Can everyone hold on another 6 months? If they shut everything down again, what's the impact on everybody? So you don't really know what the bank's position they're going to take. Maybe they're going to unload risky business. You don't know what they're going to decide, right? I just don't want to be in that position where I have 30, 60 days to, come up with all the money. So we're trying to prepare for that now.
I would imagine showing momentum, whatever that looks like, is probably preferable to, they're not, they're probably not going to, tank a business that's got
the conversations are all positive, but in the end of the day, the bank has the final, they have the right that if the numbers don't align, they can pull the plug.
Yep.
And that's not even my bank advisor, it's credit above him. They have zero relationship with me. So it's not like the old days. My dad's banker was the same banker for 30 years.
Right.
I've been in business for, BB Blanc for 12 years. I've had 4 bank account reps.
So if you and your team gotten together and visualized what the business will look like in a year and a half?
I'll be honest, we can't see that far. You know, the window, or it's like we're driving through a bad storm, you know? We can see 30 days, 60 days, 90 days out. After that, it's like, you know, they make an announcement today, we have to make changes tomorrow. So I'll give you an example. Part of our business is social. We do about 1,000 weddings a year. So this year we've had to move about 600, 700, 800 weddings to next year. Few percentage have canceled, but the few people that have wanted to hold an event, like it started as 100 people, then had to move to 50 people. Then it was inside, now it's outside. So very complicated. And then they make announcements on a Thursday for people that are having a backyard wedding on a Saturday. So it's very, like, you know, we can't see too far. It's very close.
And that's one of the challenges, not being able
Big
to
challenge.
see far enough. But
Yeah.
I think one of the things the bank might look for is, and your team, is trying to see beyond that, to create that vision and that story for both the bank and for your employees and your partners, to say, hey, people are not going to stop getting married. They're not going to stop gathering. What are we going to do in the interim? But most importantly, how is the business going to be in 18 to 24 months with not only the regular event business, but the studio business as a separate revenue stream? And how does that look? What does it look like in your inner, your personal vision, and share that with the bank?
Okay, I think we need to move on to some specific recommendations for Rennie. So we don't have a lot of time. Does anyone who really wants to go first? Otherwise, we can go from...
There we go.
I'd love to jump in here, David.
All right, Ian.
So there are a few things, and then everyone else, especially Ron, has opportunity for a rebuttal. I know how he rolls that way. So one of the things I think about is that in your business, what I see is you have the ability to deliver for someone's live event if it goes that way, or a virtual event. And a lot of the planning, a lot of the design, and a lot of the communication and things like that is consistent between those. And so I think one of the areas that would be really important is to differentiate what you do from other people. And it might be something, I refer to this concept as a client vision pyramid. So you can say to people, look, when people are looking to put on an event, they're usually looking for help and a relationship with somebody at 1 of 3 levels. At the base level, we call it the effective level. That's when the individual knows exactly what they want. They just want someone to do what they say. At that middle level, that's the enhanced level. Those are people who maybe either do virtual events or in-person events. They've got a set format, you fit into their model, and they'll execute it for you. The highest level is an engaged level. This is where you're dealing with somebody who the organization works with you to figure out what your specific objectives are, how you're trying to engage people at that event. And you can plan for it, so whether it's an in-person live event or a virtual event, you can still take out that uncertainty. So which level are you looking for? And that way, you don't get confused with the person who says, well, I can do virtual events, I have a MacBook, I can do that. So they don't confuse you with that. The other thought I have is that in your studio, have you already started to, or do you consider doing something that's almost a subscription-based model to smooth out cash flow that says, for so much per month, you have access to our studio for this many hours, assuming it's available? Is that something you've thought about or would be practical for you?
At this point, no. It has come up recently, but we're still trying to wrap our head around that, how that would work.
I'm thinking if you said to an organization, look, you want to create, when your executives are communicating with your clients or your employees, you want to create a really professional experience. We can give you that environment, you pay so much per month, and then that entitles you to 2 hours of studio time each month, 1 2-hour block or whatever happens to be. Additional time, here's what you pay for that. As part of that, we're also available to answer questions about different things you can do. From a content marketing standpoint, I would think that something that might be great to attract people to you is if you created content that said, how do you create an amazing experience for people, or as good experience as you can, when you don't have a studio like this? And that way you're giving people tips and advice, but it's people who want to create a better experience, they don't know how, and then of course they see you communicating via the studio and say, well, it's never gonna look like that. So I need to go there.
Yeah, no, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with Ian. You know, at a time when communication is so critical, you have an easy out there, which is to say, okay, you're going to address your entire organization at a really critical time to deliver a really important message, and what happens? Your dog starts barking. Your 2-year-old kid walks in the room. This is how you want to lead your organization? Come on, we can make you look professional here. The great part is, you started as a wedding DJ, right? So I can only imagine the thick skin you have developed from having to hear drunk people at 12:35 a.m. go, can you just play Don't Stop Believing? I want to hear
It
Footloose.
was closer to one. It was closer
Yeah,
to one.
closer to one, right? So you've developed a really thick skin with that. So I think that, but you need to show people that this is how they should be communicating with their organization. Now, if you need to do it by producing content for, you know, B2B social platforms, if you've been leading out with tips on how to build up studios in homes, if it's packaging up some of the material on the other side of that drape into individual kits to say, you don't want to rent our studio, here's a kit that you can take and do it from home. If you don't have a good dog or a 2-year-old, here you go. We've helped enable you to do that. This is the solution people are looking for. Don't be afraid to be bold in how you communicate that. Because what we see is that people have gone from a state of chaos to a state of composure. And what we all have to ensure is that that state of composure doesn't become a state of complacency, where they go, well, I guess this is the new normal now.
Yeah.
No, it's not. So we need to embrace our limitations. And you've said a couple of times of when it comes back, and you know what? This is your business now. This is your business now.
Right.
You can go back. That's going to be no problem at all. This is your business now for however long it is. Focus on that.
I love the idea of, and I don't know if it's scalable, but I love the idea of creating a home toolkit for leaders who are looking to communicate properly. We've all been on conferences where exactly that happens, and I've been on big conferences where people just look bad. So to create something that is easy, turnkey, and I can set up in my den would be great. Again, I don't know if that's scalable with what you have.
So I'd actually like to interject here with 2 things. The first thing is that I have actually been on the receiving end of receiving a package like that when I recorded courses for LinkedIn Learning. And so they have partnered with a company that will ship out all of the recording things that you need to record, lighting, cameras, etc. They have how-to videos of how to set everything up, and then they actually will do the recording remotely. And so, Rennie, that could be, and they also have, when they ship it, they have like a label inside of it to ship it back, and they have everything all set up. And so that could be something to explore as a way to deal with this inventory that you have that's sitting there gathering dust because it's not being used. Potentially, this is a thought. The other thought that I had, Rennie, as a potential opportunity, I'm not sure if Carrie Lynn previously said that she was partnering with you, but partnering with other event professionals who may be doing something like Carrie Lynn is potentially looking at, of increasing employee engagement, working with Fortune 500 companies to make it so that leaders are creating engaging content on a regular basis, working with somebody like that and partnering up with other complementary businesses so that they are bringing clients into you and bringing clients into the studio to do these virtual meetings and virtual presentations, more of that. You probably are doing this already, but in
Yeah.
case you haven't thought of that, that might be an option.
Yeah, thank you. Just so everybody has a little frame of reference, the renting kits and stuff involves buying more equipment. We can buy no more equipment.
Yeah,
Isn't that idea? Low dollars, high volume. It's not our game.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
I think those ideas,
Yeah.
I've seen them sprout out, but you've got an asset
Yeah.
here that you need to utilize.
Our key and what we have to do, we have to get low volume, high ticket, $50,000 to $250,000